uri inzozi nkumbura iteka ntazabona ukabika ibibi byasa.
If time equals money, your memory is worth the most to me. But do the math. Turn 9,963 days we could have spent together into any currency, and suddenly, money means nothing to me. Your souls were priceless. If memories of you were like building blocks, we'd be living on tower tops, begging God for just one last moment, one last talk. We still think of you a lot. We never stopped, never forgot. And if time is distance over speed, memories of you are going nowhere fast for a long time coming. Memories planted like seeds now blossom into trees, forests. You remain timeless. Yes, it's true. Days pass and years go by. Time flies. The thoughts of you still bring tears to our eyes and smiles on our faces. We remember you no matter how fast life pace is. And now, as I grow into tomorrow, I do so with hope. And if you ever ask God what it was I thought about every time I made a move, He would tell you that it was you. Everything I do now, I do it for two. For the air you could have breathed, I inhale deep. For the dreams you could have achieved, I aim steep. For the risks you could have taken, I make the fearless leap. For the harvest, I plant for two and double my reap. So let the clocks tell their time. I will live to tell your stories. I pray your souls rest forever in peace.
Wow, thank you for that, Malaika, for that beautiful poem. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special event, Miracle in Rwanda, an international an international conversation presented by the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh and Prime Stage Theatre, and in partnership with the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. This conversation is, of course, about the original production play Miracle in Rwanda, starring the incredible Malaika Uwamahoro, the Rwandan-born actress, poet, singer, and social justice activist. Malaika was born in Rwanda in 1990. And due to events leading to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, her mother fled with her to Uganda, where she lived for 7 years, then to the United States, and finally in 2001, back to Rwanda. She obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater studies at Fordham University in New York City, and she will be one of the panelists in today's conversation. Also, this event comes at a time when we commemorate the 100 days of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. So this annual commemoration is known as Kwibuka. And this year it is titled Kwibuka 27, Remember, Unite, Renew. It was only 27 years ago, that the world witnessed one of the most wrenching genocides in history in full view of the world. In 1994, it had been 49 years since the United Nations said never again. And this was, of course, after the tragedy of the Holocaust. Yet another genocide happened again in Rwanda in 1994 against the Tutsi, again in full view of the world. So today we gather here to remember this genocide, but also to challenge ourselves as individuals as well as organizations to make sure that never again becomes a reality. And we remember those who died and those who lived. And so it's an honor to have Malaika here with us. So I'd just like to introduce the other panelists who will be part of this incredible conversation. So obviously we have, as I've mentioned, we have Malaika Uwamahoro. She's an actress, she's a poet, she's a singer and a social justice activist. We have Wayne Brinder, who's the producing artistic director at Prime Stage Theatre. We have Dr. Lauren Byron's-Father, who's the executive director of the Holocaust Center in Pittsburgh. And we have Tali Nate, who's the executive director of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center, obviously in Johannesburg, in South Africa. And my name is Mdunduli, and I'm also part of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. I just like to, before I hand over to Dr. Lauren Byron's-Father, I just want to make a few announcements. So this event will be recorded. So it will be highly appreciated if all of you please make sure that your sound is on mute throughout the event so that we don't have any background noises interfering with any of the conversations and presentations. And also, please use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of your screen, to post your questions and your comments throughout the event. And then at the very end, we will address your questions and your comments. Our panelists will address your questions and your comments. So it is now my pleasure, my privilege to hand over to Dr. Lauren Byron's-Father, who's the executive director of the Holocaust Center in Pittsburgh, and she will officially open the event. So over to you, Dr. Lauren.
Mdu, I thank you so much. That was so beautifully done. And you pronounce my name gorgeously. I always want it to sound like it sounds when you say it. Thank you to everyone who's joining us. And I see that the numbers keep climbing. So I may say some things that are repetitive, but bear with me. As you heard, I'm Lauren Byron's-Father. I'm the director of the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, and I am sharing warmest greetings from my home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States. And I know we have people outside of the United States with us today, which is so exciting for us. Today's program is a confluence of the incredible relationships we're lucky to have in Pittsburgh between the Holocaust Center here and Prime Stage Theatre, and through the Together We Remember Coalition, with the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center and other partners around the globe. Today, we're sharing the richness of the performing arts, the depth of our commitment to using our knowledge of the Holocaust to understand genocide and the capacity of man's inhumanity toward man. While we celebrate our common humanity through building caring relationships with our partners at home and abroad, which is an especially meaningful experience with the pandemic that is raging still all over the world for over a year now. April is Genocide Awareness Month. Traditionally, Holocaust organizations were devoted to Holocaust education and remembrance. For the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, we deepen our commitment to Holocaust education by embracing its power to inspire moral courage in individuals and to rethink never again. As genocide still rages in our world, we believe the actions of individuals will inoculate us against this human virus. If we commit to educating, then we believe people can learn. I continue to learn every day from incredible individuals like the people you're going to hear from today. So I'm just so moved to be doing this program and so grateful to everyone involved. So as you've heard, we're going to see some clips from the play Miracle in Rwanda. I don't want to miss the chance to tell you a little bit more about this beautiful play, which was crafted by Leslie Lewis and co-creator Edward Vilga. It's an uplifting message of forgiveness and compassion based on the life of New York Times bestselling author of Left to Tell, Immaculée Ilibagiza. Miracle in Rwanda chronicles the dramatic events of Immaculee's survival during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. And as you heard, we're in the midst of Kwibuka 27 years since the genocide. The message is one of personal empowerment, of overcoming obstacles through the power of faith, and ultimately finding peace of mind amidst unbelievable hardship. So we're sharing several clips. Then we're going to interact with Malaika Uwamahoro, who recited her poem at the beginning of the program so beautifully. Thank you, Malaika. Malaika portrays Immaculée and 15 other characters in the play. So as you heard, we're going to use the Q&A function, which you can see at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please put in your questions for Malaika. We're going to hear a little bit more from Wayne Brinda, and then I will have a conversation with Malaika. While we're doing that, please feel free to share your questions. Then we'll hear from Tali in Johannesburg. And at the end, like I said, a Q&A for everyone. And I've been looking forward to this so much. So I'm so happy to have you all with us. We're going to watch our first clip from the play now, in which Immaculée receives a rosary from her father before she goes into hiding.
Immaculée, my beautiful daughter, it is not safe for a young girl of 22 to stay here at home.
Father, most respectfully, I am 24.
Do not contradict your father, even if he is wrong. Immaculée, it is not safe for a young girl of 22, 24 to stay here with all this going on. You will go to the house of Pastor Murinzi. Yes, he is a Hutu, but he is a good man. He will hide you.
Oh, no, Father, please. Don't send me away. I want to stay here with you and Mama and my brothers.
I thank God a marble is studying in Senegal. Immaculée Ilibagiza, you obey. Now, I pray it will soon be over. Then we can all be together again. But you will go. Now, tonight. But of course you are frightened. Ima, here. You take my rosary. And when you are afraid, you pray. Now, go.
Yes, Father.
Every time I see that miracle in Rwanda, I'm continually moved and inspired. Thank you, Malaika. I'm glad you're joining us today. I'm Wayne Brinda, producing artistic director for Prime Stage Theater, and we were inspired to continue our partnership with the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh for Genocide Awareness Month by presenting Miracle in Rwanda. After Lauren and I discussed the project, the search to find the right play that would meet the goals of the program, our missions, and could be streamed globally began last summer. After reading several scripts, Miracle in Rwanda, adapted by Leslie Lewis and Edward Vilga, was selected, being a true story adapted from Immaculee's incredible experiences as shared in her book, Left to Tell, Discovering God Amidst the Rwandan Holocaust was the key. The book shares her dramatic experiences of survival, as Lauren had mentioned. And the message is one of personal empowerment, of overcoming incredible obstacles and fears through the power of faith, and ultimately finding forgiveness that is inspiring, especially for today. At Prime Stage, we believe that theater must be more than presenting plays. It's important to find and produce stories and programs that embrace opportunities to inspire audiences. It's also important to nurture partnerships, like with the Holocaust Center, which have similar missions and goals. This enriches the experience for the artistic team, the organization, and ultimately the audiences. Miracle in Rwanda raised my awareness of the 1994 Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi, which was unknown to me. During my discussions with Lauren about Miracle in Rwanda, we believe this play provided opportunities to raise awareness of people everywhere around the globe about this genocide with international partnerships and programs. This includes connecting students and others in the United States with those in South Africa through our global classroom and other programs. The playwright Leslie Lewis encouraged us to cast Malika and have her be our dramaturg as well. Her personal history with Rwanda, the play, and friends in Rwanda helped all the pieces fall into place beautifully. We all knew that this was the perfect story with the perfect actress and staff to tell the story at this time and for this project. Each time I watch Miracle in Rwanda, it inspires me more. And for those of you unfamiliar with the play, Lauren gave you a synopsis of it. And I will tell you, she plays several characters, as Lauren mentioned, in this one-woman play. You previously saw her portray Immaculée and Immaculate's father. In this next clip, she portrays one of the killers who were determined to kill every Tutsi as they go to the pastor's house and search for any Tutsi being hidden. Please keep in mind that Immaculée was hiding with 7 other women in a 3-by-4-foot bathroom for many days, for 91 days. If you haven't read Left to Kill or seen Miracle in Rwanda, I hope these clips and the conversation you see today will encourage you to do so. We also hope this experience inspires you to help others and not be a bystander when you see events happening. To ensure the story is accessible to all people, the streaming performances are closed captioned in 3 languages. There are also audio described and have resources for those on the autism spectrum. This experience is priceless, and we know it will be for you as well. We look forward to reading and responding to your comments and questions in the Q&A tab, and thank you. It is a real honor and pleasure to speak with you today, to present Miracle in Rwanda, to work with Malika and develop long-term partnerships to make a significant difference in people's lives. This is why we do theater, why we produce Miracle in Rwanda, and why we are honored to join our partners and team to raise awareness of this very important event in history. Thank you, as we see the next video.
Do you hear that? What is that sound? God help us. It is coming closer. No, no, ha. No, no, ha. No, no, ha. No, no, ha. I need to a chamber. Pastor Murinzi, open the door. The exterminators are here to see if you have any cockroaches that need to be exterminated. Open up! Look at you all, dancing and chanting around like devils, wearing 5 or 6 watches on your arms. What do you want? I am a good Hutu, a good man.
Ah, yes, Pastor. I am sure you are. We will see how good. Go, men, go! Set every room, set the kitchen, set the bedrooms, go! You have a very big house, Pastor. Give us this day our daily bread. I've always wanted to see inside this house. Why do you pray, Pastor? You need forgiveness. What have you done?
And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Ah, your room, Pastor. It's very nice. And these doors. It goes outside, right? Boss, hey! hurry. So, your house is clean, Pastor. And your room looks very neat. We won't ransack it. I trust you. But don't think of becoming a hero, eh? We will be back. And if we come back and we find Tutsis here, we will kill you. But first, we will make you kill them. No, no!
I'll give a minute just for that to sink in because this performance is so powerful. And now we're welcoming Tali Nates from the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. Thank you for being with us. And I'm also joined by Wayne and by Malaika. So I had the extraordinary privilege of watching this performance live last weekend and having a conversation with Malaika and with Immaculée, the author of the book, and it's her story. First, Malaika, and we talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to ask you to tell us about your connection to Rwanda. And I'll remind everybody in the audience, please put your questions in the Q&A.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here with you all. Rwanda is where I'm from, where I was born. Yeah, that's my home. So I was born there, like Ndu said earlier, I was born there, and then 3 months after I was born, we moved to Uganda and then to the United States. And before all that, my grandparents had fled Rwanda in 1959 because there were massacres against Tutsi people, and they had made a life in Uganda, where my mother and all of her siblings were born and raised. And they only heard about their home, about their country through what they saw in newspapers, the stories they heard from my grandfather and my grandmother, and the radio. And, you know, that's how they connected with home. And when my mother got pregnant with me when she was in the 11th grade. So she was really worried about her parents' reaction. So she ran away to Rwanda to have me. And, you know, it was when she got there, she wrote to her dad, telling him that, you know, I'm pregnant, I'm gonna have a baby. And her dad was like, that's a really bad time for you to be there. You need to come home. It's gonna be fine. I won't overreact, da 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 da. And my mom was like, no, I'll just stay here and have the baby here. And so that's how I was born there. And then 3 months later, I moved to Uganda with my mom and was raised in Uganda and the States. And it was my turn to learn about Rwanda from word of mouth, from reading newspapers, from hearing it in the radio. And then in 2001, I moved back home. And for the first time, I got to understand everything that I had heard. And before that, I think I was filled with so much sadness and shame and anger, knowing that I had come from a place with such instability and a lot of pain. And when I went back home in 2001, I was 11 and started to learn more, not just about, you know, the genocide against Tutsi, but more about our culture, our dance, our language, which I had always heard but never spoke. And so I began to learn how to speak, which was so interesting, and a beautiful journey. And yeah, I just learned so much about my home and started to love who I am and where I am from, and learning how to own everything, the good and the bad. So that is my connection to Rwanda.
And I'll make sure that we hear more about Rwanda now, because that's a question that I asked last weekend, and I know that people really love to hear about it. And I feel like that's an important part of the story. But because we have Tali with us, Tali, I wanted to ask you, because you're in South Africa and there are connections. So I'm wondering if you could tell us about what connects your work and what connects South Africa with Rwanda.
Thank you. And it's just such an honor to work with all of you. And Malaika, your play was just so moving. So here in South Africa, you know, in the same month and the same year that the genocide in Rwanda happened, we were, you know, voting in our first democratic elections. And we, of course, voted for Nelson Mandela as our first president. But, you know, overcoming apartheid, overcoming racism, racist system, racist ideology, but through peaceful means, we were celebrating and we were not paying attention. We were not seeing what is happening only 3.5 hours away from us by flight in Rwanda. And that maybe brings me to ask you a question, because, you know, you play so many roles in the play. And for those that didn't see the play, please, you know, make sure that you do. And part of it is, of course, talking about the international community. And you talk about France, and, you know, and I'll not tell too much about that because I want you to see the play. But many times we don't talk about Africa and about other African countries. And I wonder, you that grew up in Uganda, and what do you think as an actress, but also as a Rwandan, about the role of African countries like South Africa in trying to resolve issues in Africa?
I definitely feel, and this is my personal opinion. I remember, you know, when I was learning about the 1994 genocide against Tutsi, and I visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial Center, where I later worked for a year. I remember really learning about how the Western world and the world in general had abandoned Rwanda. And I remember feeling very angry and very sad about that, because a lot of times we talk about the perpetrators and what they did, but there is also a lot that wasn't done. And there is a quote, I don't remember who it's from, but it says, "Bad things happen when good men do nothing." And so that's something that really stuck with me. But then I also would like to bring into focus the fact that, you know, what was happening in Rwanda was happening to Rwandans, right? And then eventually in July 4th, 1994, the Inhotanyi were able to come and stop the genocide. These were Rwandans who had fled, like my grandparents in 1959, and in the 1960s and 70s and 80s and 90s, they had fled to other countries and had formed the Patriotic Front, who later came and saved Rwanda from its problems. And I think that is something very exemplary to me. I feel like Africans should be responsible for their own problems, but at the same time, where others are, you know, able to help, I feel like they should definitely do so. You know, so it was Rwandans who stopped the genocide, and I take great pride in that. And I do believe that other Africans should, you know, learn how to solve their own problems and not wait for the West to come and solve all their problems, because that's a whole nother narrative in that sense. Africans do have values. We are strong, we are intelligent, we are capable of resolving our own issues. We are also very rich in resources, and we can definitely solve our own problems, our own issues. So I feel like we definitely need to tap into that more, and to stop the narrative of always, you know, wanting to wait for the West to come and solve our issues.
I want to apologize if there's ambient noise coming from around me. It's a nice day here and dogs are barking right outside of my house. Not my dogs, other dogs. So I'm taken with a couple of things here. What Wayne said about what he knew about what was happening in Rwanda in '94 and what he didn't know. And I feel the same way. And it's actually, I mean, I have some shame about that. I was in college, so I really should have known about this and I didn't. So when I think of any idea that we should be waiting for the West, I mean, we just don't know enough here. So that's part of the reason that we do programs like this, and how valuable it is to be able to have a program with partners in Africa and hear directly from people who are based there. So we'll come back and we'll talk more about that, I think, with both Malika and with Tali. And thank you to people who are already putting questions in the Q&A. Please continue to do that. And we have some time at the end of the program to get to those. So I'm thinking, and I can't help but think with everybody that we have here, between Wayne and Malika both being here, and it's a question to both of you. What role can drama play in educating about the past and specifically about Holocaust or genocide?
I'll start, and then Malika, I'd definitely love to get your thoughts on this as well. I think theater has an opportunity and obligation to do more than just entertain. And I think that's the key. Um, and that's why I was so excited about doing this project, and also partnering with the Holocaust Center. How many years have we been working together? Because one of the things that theater can do, theater is what's called a live medium. I mean, you're seeing it perform. Even in the streaming, the streaming is a live performance. And you're seeing things happening right now in quote unquote real time. You know, the idea, the illusion of it happening right now. And I think that is so powerful because you are experiencing it. You're having to experience it. It's capturing you emotionally as well as intellectually. And I think that's in theater really has to be. That's the strengths of theater, and that's what theater should be doing. And that's where we can be doing more of that. We can inspire people emotionally and intellectually, and to have conversations like we're having with this, but also the idea about, you know, not being a bystander, but hopefully it will inspire you to get out and do something, to either read more, to help more, to do more. And that's the power of theater. And that's what I see. That's really what theater can do and what theater should be doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Wayne. I also want to note, like, for the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, art was a big part of it. People used art. The Interahamwe militia dressed in a certain kind of fashion. There was a certain kind of fashion that was assigned to them. They used radios, they used songs, and different kind of messaging, but through form of the radio art to send their messages of hate to people. So, you know, there were a lot of, even in the newspapers, they had like comics. They would draw comics and you know, say like, you know, Tutsis are cockroaches and all these things. So art was used to influence the killings, mass killings. So art is powerful. And if you continue to look at how we use art, even in today, if you're going to advertise for a certain product, you're going to do this amazing commercial, and that commercial is going to go viral, and people are going to buy this product that you're selling. So art is very powerful, is very influential. And if you understand that power and decide to redirect it into something like forgiveness, like reconciliation, like unity, like education, and you know, focus the art and its power to good, then you can achieve a lot. The genocide against the Tutsi was successful because of the radio. The radio was a very big part of it. And they killed more than 1 million innocent Tutsi people in just 3 months. Just think about that. That's 10,000 people each day, 400 people each hour. Art is extremely powerful and can teach, but if we do not use it in the correct way, it can do a lot of damage. That's how I feel about it.
And, you know, jumping on that too, Malika, I think, you know, when you're saying about using art and using theater in a positive way, in the right way, you know, I think the other thing the theater should do, and something I very strongly believe in, is it's connecting people, connecting partnerships, connecting people like we're connecting now. I think when theater, if theater is isolated unto itself, That's not what theater is. Theater is a medium to bring people together. And whether through education, through programming, through conversation, through things like this is how we inspire people. This is how people grow. This is how people learn. This is, like you're saying, this is the positive part of theater. And I think we should be doing more of that.
Lauren, can I jump in, because I'm really would love to ask Malaika. I was so amazed by your portrayal of so many role players. From rescue to bystanders to perpetrators to victims and so on and so forth. All ages, all female, male, child. It just was amazing. Can you take us through, you spoke in first person as a perpetrator, as a killer, as someone that killed day after day, hour after hour. You spoke as a person that rescued but is wavering, is not sure that, because we know in Rwanda, those that rescued sometimes killed, those that killed sometimes rescued. There were many gray zones. How was it for you as an actress to put those robes of specifically the killers, and just maybe take us through that process, if you don't mind?
I mean, to be honest, it's very heavy. This is something, it's not just a play for me. It's very personal, it's part of my history, part of my family's history. But, as much as it is heavy, I also feel like it is a duty that I have personally. And it is also the type of art that I want to do. I feel like in 2009 or 10, 2009 or 10, I was working at the Kigali Genocide Memorial Center, and I was, able to speak to survivors, to victims, and to perpetrators. I have visited the jails. I have spoken to these people. I have had conversations with them, and at times I would also be in charge of translating. So when you're translating, the perpetrator will say, I did this and this, and then I will translate in first person and say, I did this and this. So in English, right? And so that was the first time I really started to really think about what I was saying and carrying that. I was just, it was a translation task, but it was hitting me a lot harder than I thought it would. So it definitely is very heavy. But I think that it's really important, and it also is a duty that I have as an actor, because a lot of times, and I think maybe we'll talk about this later, but a lot of times people want to portray these killers as animals, right? They want to, they were animals, and they're not. They're men, I think, which is what they're human, which is what makes it even more scary, that we are capable of such things. And yeah, just carrying that role on. But one thing I also will realize is that even putting on the role of the killer, it demanded, a lot of my other characters are a little more complex, but there was an ignorance and a simplicity to the killer whenever I wear it. Yet they're complex in character, but the train of thought was very, it's like, I'm going to kill because I hate, and that's it. Like, and I'm blood hungry. There is no consequence. There is no, it's not fully thought out. And I recognize that when I'm playing the killer, it's only about killing, and there is no consequence or conscious. That is, yeah. So that's how it kind of feels. I hope I kind of answered your question.
Well, it seems like a good time to play one more clip from the play, and then we'll take questions. Again, please use the Q&A, and I would like to invite Tali and Wayne to come back for that last part where we're doing audience questions as well, okay? So thank you. We'll do the next clip.
Look at all these names. Kanyindi Rose, kill number 15, wife of Leonard Okurichinyindi. Oh, Mama, I was going to tell you how I had suffered. Cousin Ezaviani, youngest heir of Leonard Okurichinyindi, my baby brother. I remember when he was born. But I don't see Damasen's name listed here. You know, he is so smart. He said he would hide with Bon, but perhaps he was able to escape to Zaire. I don't see his name. Perhaps. Mother Mary did not say anything about... Nothing. Please, God. No. Muhirwa Damasen, middle son of Leonard Kurichinyindi. Note, the men cut open his head to see what brains with a master's degree look like. Same as anyone else's brain. Why would anyone do that? Did you know about this? No. I would prefer to know now. Leonard Okurichinyindi. At last, his property is now mine.
I have the same feeling I had watching this live, that it's just so deeply painful and important that we're doing this. So we have some good Q&A questions, but I want to ask Malika first what it was like to portray Immaculée.
Um, it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. I'm always amazed about how much our survivors are able to continue to inspire, to continue to survive. Because I don't just believe that Immaculée survived the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. I believe that she survives every day. And because to live with this pain every day, it's not easy. As the poem I recited earlier, it says it's only been 27 years, is 9,960 days ago. So that's yesterday, right? That's yesterday. Immaculée is she's not only a survivor to me, I think she's an incredible woman. I think she's somebody, you know, who used her faith and found her faith, and continues to use the tools within herself to be the strong woman that she is, and to inspire us all despite of what happened. I would think that, you know, if something like this happened to me or to anyone, you know, I can imagine the hateful days I would live almost every day, but that's so consuming. And that's something she realized earlier on, that, you know, I don't want to live like this. So I really commend her. I think it for me was an honor to be able to play her. And yes, she's an incredible woman, and I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity.
So we have one comment. Wow, Malika, that was beautiful. So I wanted to share that with you. More are coming into the Q&A. I'm going to give
Thank you.
a little bit of a break, Malika. There's a question to Wayne. Why did you choose to have one actor doing multiple roles rather than a cast of actors? Did you think this was going to be more impactful?
That was actually the decision by the playwrights, by Leslie and Edward. And I really think it was the right decision, because it's very important that we focus on Immaculée. And we see we see her responses to the world and to things going on around her, rather than bringing in other characters. Then we lose the focus of her. And I think by focusing on her power, her story, the purpose of the story, the purpose of the play, I think comes across a lot stronger this way, by being a one woman performance rather than having a cast of other actors. And so I think it was a very smart choice by both Leslie and Edward. It demands a lot of the actress, and you know, but we had to find the right one, and we did. But I think that yes, it is. I think it does make it more powerful. Yes.
We have another comment. Malika personifies the Rwandan youth who are playing a pivotal role. She lived to tell the story of Rwanda. Her upbringing in the US is a powerful asset to us because of her position to reach a wide audience. Power to the youth. Kudos to Malika and Prime Stage Theater. Positive power.
Thank you.
That's a really nice one. Okay. So there's another question for you, Malika. It says, you stated that you went to the prisons and got the chance to speak with some of the perpetrators. When you spoke with them, did they show any remorse for the acts they committed?
Some did. Some did. Some were very remorseful. I met two who were very interesting to me. One of them, so there is a time I went with the survivors. We went with the survivors, and you know, we went to go see the man who had killed her family. And this was a translation job as well. So it was interesting because he was, when they, you know, they were asking him, okay, what did you do? And he said, you know, I didn't kill, I just cut them. I cut an arm, I cut a leg, I cut, you know, I cut parts. So it was interesting that he wasn't admitting that he killed, but that, you know, he was just cutting, you know. And that was something that was interesting to me. There was another one who was really, really interesting, another one who's very interesting to me. And he had a part of a baby's skull that's in his hand, like he can't let go of it. And if he lets go of it, then he gets a psych, like he freaks out. And like he apparently he can hear like a lot of voices if he ever lets go of it. So he holds on to that part. And yeah, that was also another really experience that I had. Mm, yeah, so remorse, yes, some showed it, but others carried it in different ways. Yes.
I
Do you
just
know?
wonder, can
Oh, go
can
ahead.
I ask just a
Please.
following question, Lauren? I'm just wondering, uh, did any of the perpetrators that you interviewed, or through your work in the Kigali Genocide Memorial, or even this story, because you are portraying some perpetrators, do they justify their action by blaming others? And did you hear what kind of reasoning do you hear? Because that is quite common, I think, as well.
Yeah, they definitely did try to justify it being like, they were forced to. It was the way of the world at the time. It was just something that they had to do. A lot of people also say that Numuka movie, which means that it was like a bad spirit that was around. Like they blame it on God or they blame it on the devil. They blame it on other than themselves. I hear that. I heard that a lot.
Thank you.
And we had a question if you know of if any of the perpetrators have seen the play.
No, I actually have not performed this in Rwanda yet. I think the closest it's been to Rwanda is through this streaming that you all are doing, which I think is really powerful. So I definitely feel like this play is for Rwandans, this play is for Africans. I definitely feel like we should try and find more ways to make it available to them. I think it would be a good thing for both perpetrators and survivors and victims and kids and grown-ups to watch and to learn.
So we have one question that we had someone in our audience who is raising a really important question that many of us who do this sort of work face and have to take very seriously. And I think this goes for everybody who's been involved with this production and basically for everybody right now during this very strange year. But it's a question specifically to you, Malaika, asking about your self-care and acknowledging how difficult this was, asking how you take care of your mental health, if that's something that you're willing to share with us. Very important question.
Yeah, I definitely do a lot of self-care. I use writing as a tool, whenever I am overwhelmed with emotions of how come I come up with a lot of poetry on this subject, on other subjects. I use writing as a tool. I also meditate. I do breathing exercises. I do yoga. I try to be physical. I try to log off as much as I can, this is something that is deep. It's part of my history, but it can also be very heavy. So just making the conscious decision to be like, okay, if I'm going to be even be able to do this or even be able to tell this story or to step into these shoes, I need to make sure that I'm okay. So I do take that. I take it very seriously, and yeah, not always easy, but it's necessary for sure.
I mean, I'm sure that we're all really glad to hear that and so grateful to you for taking this on because, wow. So I wanted to ask both to Tali and to Malaika because we have an international audience here, especially speaking from the perspective of someone in southwestern Pennsylvania. We don't know a whole lot about Africa. So I asked Saturday for Malaika and Immaculée to tell us what people should know about Rwanda in 2021. And I'd like to pose the same question to Tali about South Africa.
First of all, about Rwanda, they should know that it's absolutely beautiful and they should visit when we can all travel. So I'll be from the travel board and can recommend where to stay, where to go, what to see, what to eat. So that is about Rwanda. But South Africa is absolutely a beautiful country. We are, of course, very famous for our painful history, but also for our democratic process, and everyone claims, of course, Nelson Mandela is their own. So he's not South Africa's. He's, a world figure. The museums are amazing. nature is fantastic. Our wine and food, our animal kingdom in the Kruger Park, but we are still facing challenges. So the beauty is there, the sights are there, but the challenges are also there. We are still trying to confront a very difficult and painful past, not only of apartheid, but of colonialism, of suffering, of hundreds and hundreds of years, and current issues, of course, of racism and xenophobia and gender, issues in LGBTQ community and so on. So there is the beauty and the good, but there are also the challenges.
Yes, and for me, I do have a poem that talks about this, which I would like to say, I guess, before we close. So I will do that later on.
Yeah, it's nearly time to do that. So
Oh.
let me just see. I know it goes so quickly. I knew that it would be, there's just so much to say, and I'm so grateful to everyone. So we have one very difficult question that I might just table because it's a philosophical question about a phrase that I used earlier, man's inhumanity to man, and the way that sounds so gendered now. And I just don't think we can get into that as much as I would love to. But to the person who put that question in the Q&A, thank you so much. It actually is something that I would be happy to put more thought into later. And I hope that we'll have a chance to talk about it again. So I would like to invite Malika, please, to share your poem.
Okay, this poem is called Rwanda is Not Hotel Rwanda. And I wrote it because every time I would tell somebody that I am from Rwanda, they would be like, oh, like Hotel Rwanda, the movie? And I'm like, no, not that. So yes, so here we go. Rwanda is not Hotel Rwanda. Rwanda is not Hotel Rwanda. No, Rwanda is the heart-beating life of Africa, the world's example and definition of hope, resilience, and ambition. If you haven't yet heard, listen, grab a pen and learn, because Rwanda is a lesson. Rwanda is where the great Kivu Lake rests in, where the birds of the Nyungwe forest nest in, and the foreign investors fly all the way to invest in. What's happening right now in Rwanda is interesting, and it's amazing to be a part of and watch Rwanda. Rwanda is tens of growing cities, hundreds of opportunities, the land of 1,000 hills, the faces with 1,000,000 smiles, and just one people. We are united back home where I come from. In Rwanda, there is freedom where we live in peace and where we live as we please. Yemwe, simvuga amahanga, oya ndavuga iwacu mu Rwanda, ahari kubera ibitangaza. Rwanda is birds and lakes, lights and city streets, volcanoes and silverbacks, restaurants, cinemas, and coffee beans, teas, industries, and electricity. I come from the earth. Last piece. Paradise. A big-hearted land where my people chose forgiveness over the atrocities they witnessed. A land where we are not afraid to speak the truth. A land where there's room for the youth. A land where my people work hand in hand to demand justice and dignity. We come from a land that has risen from the ashes of sorrow to the rose blossom of tomorrow. A land of Agachiro. We come from that land. So no, Rwanda is not Hotel Rwanda. We will not be defined by the genocide. Rwanda is the land of pride, the home to dreamers, believers, and achievers, learners and teachers, humans and creatures, the heart-beating life of Africa, the world's example and definition of hope, resilience, and ambition. If you haven't heard yet, yo, I hope you listen, because Rwanda is a lesson. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that, Malika. And what an honor for me to be part of this conversation That was really beautiful and very touching. Thank you very much for that. And thank you,
Thank
ladies and
you.
gentlemen. Thank you. Yes, there were times when I was in tears, when I was watching the clips of the play. There were times that I felt tears in my eyes. So thank you very much for that. And the hard work and the emotion that you put into this, it really came through and it was spectacular. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in this special event, Miracle in Rwanda, an international conversation presented by the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh and Prime Stage Theatre, and in partnership with the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. And of course, it's based on the original production play, Miracle in Rwanda, starring the incredible Malaika Uwamahoro. And in these 100 days of commemoration, when we're commemorating the 100 days of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, Kwibuka 27, remember, unite, renew. Let us indeed remember this tragedy. Let us unite, despite our differences, whether racially, culturally, nationally, etc., and go beyond our comfort zones of safety and privilege. And let us indeed stand up against injustice and othering of any kind, at any level. You know, often bystander behavior empowers the perpetrator and it never helps the victim. So with all the avenues that are available to us to express our outrage about the injustices that keep on happening throughout the world, there's really no excuse for us to sit back and do nothing. But it starts with us renewing ourselves as individuals and our conditioned minds. So that self-work is most critical, and to also pass that on to our children as we raise them, to help them understand their conditioned minds. Thank you to the panelists in today's conversation. Thank you to Malaika Uwamahoro. And you can, of course, follow Malaika on Twitter at Malaika Uwamahoro. Thank you to Wayne Brinder, the producing artistic director at Prime Stage Theatre. And you can follow them at primestage.com. Thank you to Lauren Byron's father, executive director of the Holocaust Center in Pittsburgh. And their website is hcofpgh.org. And thank you to Tali Mates, executive director of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. And of course, www.jhbholocaust.co.za is the website of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Malaika.
Thank you, Tali, Lauren, Rain, Du, everyone at Prime Stage, at Here Core, Jackie, thank you.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, the streaming is going to be lasting until, I believe it's April 26th, through our websites, through the Holocaust website and through our website. So you'll have a chance to see the streaming performance of this. And also we have educational programs that are coming up, and there's information on the Holocaust website. We have a lot of interesting things coming up. So please check out our websites, and please, if you have a chance, really view the production and read the book, and do what you can to not be a bystander. I think that's the key, right?